Hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome to my review of Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. Alright, this is going to be a doozy. I will just say at the front, the way I do reviews, a little unconventional. I have some objective standards, I rank games at the moment, or at least I'm working on that. I'm going to put all this at the back of the video. If you find all that interesting and curious and you make it that far, check it out there. Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. Oh god, where do I start with this? Can a game be bad, but you still really like it and enjoy it? I guess that's what a guilty pleasure would be. Something that occurs to me is Alone in the Dark, the original. I guess the new one's about to come out, right? Well, not the original. I guess Alone in the Dark that I like, 2008 or something. That was a remake. Generally received and thought to be by most as an absolute dumpster fire mess of a game. And yeah, it's janky and it's messy, but I like a lot of the innovative mechanics. I like the soundtrack. I really have a soft spot for that game. But you'd be the same, right? Maybe not that game, but you'd have something that you find that you love, but most other people probably don't like. Anyway, this game probably going to fall into that category. It's doing some weird stuff. It's shooting for the fences. It's got so many mechanics just ramshackled in together, and most of them make no sense and don't really work synergistically. And the phrase of like, be careful what you wish for, sort of comes to mind, because I could elevator pitch this game to you and you would go, oh my god, this is the game that I always wanted. But in practice, you start to realize maybe why this sort of game doesn't exist these days. I'll give you that elevator pitch. So imagine that you've got a RTS style game in the Terminator setting, in that edge of futurism. At first I thought it was more like the T2 intro, but it's more closer to that whole Christian Bale movie, right? It is future fighting with the machines, but less of a James Cameron laser gun future, though there are laser guns in here, and more of the, the good guys still have Bradleys and Abrams and 7.62 weapons, that sort of stuff. So it's sort of pseudo-futurism. It's got a huge involved narrative campaign with some main characters and interplay and not terrible voice acting, a bit of a drama thing playing out. All of your troops are managed in a way similar to something like Men of War, but that is an outdated reference for me. I haven't played that in for so long, I'd have to go back. But what I'm getting at is incredibly high fidelity. Every vehicle has a shitload of damage systems associated with it, can have engines and blocks knocked out. All your dudes can be picked off and die individually and then refurbished during the campaign. Every single guy has their own weapon. They all have every single bullet and ammo accounted for, and if they run out of ammo, they need to be resupplied by like an ammo truck. Trucks have repair points, fuel. If they run out of fuel, they need to be refueled by an ammo truck. You need to put crews in to drive the vehicles. You can have people passenger around. There is an RPG overworld management mechanic in that there are loot rarities to like guns and rocket launchers that you can buy and trade and you can equip to individual squads. You can upgrade all your trucks and that, like it gets Mad Max-esque. Like I had this big rig with a armored trailer and then I managed to attach turret sponsons onto them and then buy turrets to then slot into those, slot armor, crew these towed like gun setups that have to be pulled around with trailers and all. Like it's incredibly fiddly, it's incredibly high fidelity. And as I say this to you, some people will be salivating going, yes, this is what I want. And so give it a go, try it out. But it is a case of be careful what you wish for, because you start to realize, okay, this is cool if you're going to sort of simulate all this stuff. And that's probably the best analogy. This game is more of a simulator than it is some sort of RTS type game. And the problem is like that squad that I spent half an hour, well, maybe not that much, but between the mission, fiddling around, replenishing, trading areas, moving my army around because your army has supply points and they travel around an overworld map, so it gets into sort of total war territory. And then like I equipped these special rocket launchers and then this higher rarity stuff, or I upgraded this truck and then I'll drive it into a mission, and then the game will just throw through the course of the narrative, there'll be some bloody uprising and then you'll be fighting a bloody 20 tanks and they will just one tap the truck block, kill everyone in it, destroy your truck, destroy all the stuff that you spent bloody 20 minutes upgrading, and it's all gone. And there's not much you could have done about it because you couldn't see the dude because he shot you from outside of eye line. It sort of makes you realize and have a bit of a respect for, your your Lord of the Rings main characters, killing 10,000 goblins and all that sort of stuff. You know, if these game designers went into there, and again, I'm not trying to bash them because you can probably hear the smile. I enjoy this game a real lot. A lot of people are going to hate it. But like, if you took the game design discipline from this and put it into, I don't know, the halls of Moria fighting all those goblins, the Fellowship would be dead within 2 seconds because you'd have 9 dudes trying to take on 400 goblins and the first dozen or so would probably kill half of them. So there is a, dare I say, it's very weird to say, but there's kind of a hyper-realism to the world systems of this Terminator game. So look, that's sort of your structure. That gets it all out of the way. But I really liked it. However, one thing I really dislike is save scumming. I don't really enjoy it. It is well accepted to be an exploit. The term save scumming is not some sort of mechanic that is supposed to be implemented into a game. The idea is that the game will have some level of permanency. And this is why you have Iron Man runs and that lock out your save file being implemented, because it is to circumvent the circumventing of save scumming. Essentially, if you're a save scummer, it is a term of disparagement because the game is trying to get you to, like an XCOM is a great example. It's trying to get you to emotionally connect with the arc of your characters, where you become attached to them and you watch them all sort of grow and level up, and then someone dies tragically and you're supposed to carry that death with you through the playthrough, and it leaves an emotional mark, and that's what actually creates the nuanced story. Unfortunately, then you'd have people that will just save scum around decisions, around that sort of stuff. You know, maybe you get to make a decision with a character in Fallout or something, and it's like, well, I'm not sure if this is going to be good or bad for me, so I will make a save, I will do the decision, and then I'll reload it if I don't like the answer. This is akin to cheating because you're using a system outside of the closed system that is the game to try and circumvent the game's mechanics. Occasionally you see games where save scumming is part of the mechanic, which is interesting, and I hate it. But at the same time, if the developer wants to make it a mechanic, so be it. But I can't help but feel like you're supposed to play Terminator Dark Defiance save scumming. All of your army carries over from place to place, and it has this inconsistency about it because it is just so narratively driven that 1 minute you're building up a huge army and you're choosing which units to go into a mission. Another minute, you sort of get ambushed on the way from one mission to another, and you get your entire ridiculous 50 vehicle army to fight the map, and you stomp it. But then, of course, if the enemy fires even 1 or 2 rockets into your blob, they accidentally will destroy one of your favorite vehicles. What I'm sort of getting at is the game encourages you to have high fidelity investment in the same vein of maybe if you had like a character from Baldur's Gate, except that character can now be killed by almost anything and kind of randomly beyond your ability to sort of math it out in your brain and predict how it's going to go down. And it's one of those things, yeah, I'm happy to roll with the punches and take the damages, but the game doesn't actually have any sort of like game master level handrails. There's nothing to stop you from getting half your army deleted because of happenstance, and then that bricking your campaign potentially 2 hours in advance because there's a mission coming up and you're going to need something and you couldn't possibly know that you could need that, and your random army got half deleted 2 hours ago. I hope this is all making sense. So yeah, a big chunk of this game is sort of that it's sandboxing a bit, but then it's also putting you through the paces of fixed campaigns with very specific scenarios. You kind of expected to know are coming and how to engineer a victory, and yet you might have lost exactly what you needed in the first mission. So look, I sound like I'm down on it. I guess I kind of am. I don't think there's any way you could fix it other than not making this game. It's more that it's a buyer beware. Like, if you do go into this, you need to understand what's going on, what's making it tick, and that if you can't reconcile that with yourself, at least early in the piece, you may find this more of an exercise in frustration. But all that said, look, the game created some really cool moments, you know, some epic scenarios. The amount of times where like the positive side effect of this unconventional design, I'm not necessarily saying it's bad. What I am saying is that if you line 10 people up and all gave them a copy of this, I reckon 7 of them are going to have a miserable time. And 3 of them are probably going to fall in love with it. But the amount of times, like, you know, I'll be squaring off my Mad Max truck full of all my gun crews and all that, and there'll be like a rocket launching AT team or a utility or something like that up the road, and you're watching them both reload and you're just sort of sweating bullets like, can my dudes get the shot off first? Are they going to land it? Like, that lethality actually lends itself to a much more intense experience. I just feel like the nature of it, again, to use the XCOM example, because that's at a sort of smaller scale. Even if you do lose your favorite dude in a mission, on the next mission you get to pick a whole 4 or 6 man crew from your reserve and go in, but like the next mission in a way is a clean slate that you have a fair shot at beating going into it. It's not so much in this game. Your entire army just carries over and you can pretty much bring whatever you bloody feel like it, if the mission allows it. Like, I had another mission where I had to infiltrate the cartel and all they gave me was a car and 1 squad, and I had to go around and do a narrative adventure for an hour. Like, it's so bizarre, this game. And it cuts the other way. I wasn't save scumming much, but there were moments where, like, I would just crack the sads because the game just said, fuck it, here's 10,000 dudes, and then it just deleted half my army, and so I was like, nah, Alt F4, we'll continue this later. But I think it cuts the other way. If you were actually a meticulous save scummer about this, if you really, really reloaded your save every 5 minutes, pushing through a map, I think you could probably steamroll this campaign because you could engineer a monstrous, uncut, unscathed army that you would just barrel roll through the next dozen or so hours. Anyway, yeah, so look, to say that it has any balance at all would be an absolute lie. This game is unbalanced, it's very messy at that higher level. All the mechanics, the way that the world works is really quite cool and interesting, and it makes for some intense combat. But like I said, the synergy or cohesion or whatever you'd like to call it is going to leave some wanting. So look, that's my review for Terminator Dark Fate, Defiance, whatever it's bloody called. If you've made it this far and you might be curious, I'll go over my review style because it's unusual and it's a bit of a long thread. It's going to take a while to really show, to really bear fruit. Firstly, the way that I review games is against an objective standard. It's only one and it's not that complicated. Essentially, for every $5 that the game asks of me, I will ask that it gives me an hour of good solid gameplay loop. This game's actually $58.90 or something like that. It's $60, which is smack bang in the AA price point for these sort of games, which I think is reasonable for what I've gotten here. I've put 12 hours in because that's the equivalent. There's more time to be spent here, and I probably will go back and chip away at it over the course of the year, as I want to do. If I fully complete it in full, or if I do all the achievements, or, you know, if I have further thoughts as I play more, I'll probably do a follow-up video. Also, as far as scoring, and like at the time of this review, for posterity, I suppose I'll say, I'm probably putting this at 9.5, but you got to understand that this is a ranking on a 100-point scale. So once I've done 100 games, it'll make more sense. And I will also be dynamically changing these. You'll see the score in the thumbnail. So, you know, a couple of months from now, when I've done a couple dozen more reviews, this score will probably drop. And the idea is that once I've done 100 games, it will be 100 level ranking, and you can see what I think. The reason I do this is because I don't really like 4 5-star ratings. I don't like 7 out of 10s. They don't mean anything when 90% of the games you review all get 7 out of 10. At least this way, it might be a bit cruel and a tough pill to swallow when one of your favorite games of the year I give a 4 out of 10. But that's not necessarily saying it's bad, it's probably just saying it was a good year for games and there were some games that were better than it. So that's what I think, that's where I'll rank it for the time being. Anyway, I don't need to waffle on very much more. I did really enjoy this. Absolutely, it's very weird, it's very strange. It's not going to be for everyone, and I'm reluctant to even try and tell you who it's really for. Though I got value out of it, but I can't deny the fact that that was coloured by, you know, having to rage quit, walk away, not play it for anymore. Like, the game gave me emotions that a game probably shouldn't give you. Anyway, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.